we recommend that you watch the movie before watching our episodes.
Hi guys, welcome to yet another perspective with Swati Deepak and me, Hema Subramanian. We are the co-creators along with Neeti Singhal of this amazing book called Three Coffee Stains Later. If you haven't picked up your copy, please order it on www.threecoffeestainslater.com. And here we are once again talking about one of our favorite movies, Naram Garam. This is the concluding episode where I want to dedicate this episode to the character of Babua or Kali Shankar. I personally love the character because Sala Goju is like his tagline, his go-to line in almost every other statement that he makes. I don't use Sala Goju, but I love swearing, and it doesn't have to be in a particular context. And I'm really fond of using those words, not necessarily as an insult to somebody, but just as another grammatical addition, So, what do you think is the psychology behind swearing so much?
We'll start with the character Kali and then we'll move on to the way his temperament has been described. I think somewhere Kali can be looked at as an equivalent of Sumi, right? A father figure. He really looks up to Bhavani Shankar. He's somebody who has created his own world, the garage, and his make-believe play, jo pretend play wagar karte hain, ki wo car theek kar raha hai and he can fix things and he knows the machine very well, but still a little lost and hasn't reached that position of responsibility in relationships. Aise ke andar, when you feel a little small and there's this desire to be all grown up, to feel that you can emphasize on something, a lot of people add, like you mentioned, just like a grammatical addition, that addition of gali to come back and say, I'm emphasizing the point. So it's very important ki jagah, you just use the gali there to add to the word important. Kali is this very childlike personality, and somewhere where, again, the superiority and inferiority always works together.
Right.
The smaller you feel, the need for that grander gesture that ends up happening. And a gali, because it's supposed to be a grown-up thing, we tell children not to use it. It just feels all grown up. It feels more emphatic compared to other things.
Right. Like it's said, empty vessels make more noise, right? So the more he swears, that the more inadequate he feels.
Yeah.
Emphasizing his innocence. When he's watching Ramayana, everybody's seen Ramayana and he's actually describing, dekh abhi wo aayega, abhi wo Ravan aayega, and abhi wo ye karega.
Yeah.
So it's almost like pretty childlike.
Yeah, right? So we can talk about the concept here introduced by Carl Rogers on ideal self and real self. Even if we were to bring in Sigmund Freud into the picture a little, as to how the id and the superego interact, right? So in superego, you want to know that things are as part of the conscience part and the ego ideal. This is what I want to become part. You need both to combine and make superego. You want to look at superego a little more, you can watch the episodes around Hera Fairy for that. You can go back to that one. So he's more that child who's working with an ideal self and a real self.
Right.
The ideal self is having a lot of values, right? He's somebody who loves Sumi. He's somebody who would bring her the amrud. He's somebody who's very respectful of his elder brother. He's somebody extremely obedient. So all of those characteristics are part of him.
Right. So adding to this, he's the only one who reminds Bhavani Shankar that Sumi abhi 16 saal ki ho gayi hai.
Yeah. So this whole feeling of being grown up is where the counterpart comes in.
Right.
The Sumi badi ho gayi hai, to main bhi bada ho gaya hu. I don't need to be told by you constantly. So in that, the world he creates, the garage, the boys that who work with him.
Right.
He works on the concept of being the bigger one, right? So जो ठहराव भवानी शंकर में है, because he's the older one, वो feel करने के लिए he's adding a gali.
Right.
Okay, साले घोंचू, and then he adds. But he's still giving them lessons in the sense कि, औरत की हमेशा रेस्पेक्ट करनी चाहिए, या औरत को कभी हाथ नहीं उठाना चाहिए, या बड़े भैया हैं उनके सामने मेरी आवाज नहीं निकलती है, या
या आपकी सास है मैं उनको झूठ कैसे बोलूं,
राइट,
ही टेल्स भवानी शंकर that मैंने ही बताया था उनको कि आप ज्योतिष के पास गए थे, आपकी सास है मैं झूठ कैसे बोलूं,
right. So this whole ideal self, that this is what I am and this is what I want to become to be, not old enough to come back and say I'm ready for marriage, or I'm ready to even stand up to my brother and say this is what I want. So I think we should also maybe just talk about the graph. What do you remember about Kali and his movement?
So after all of this happens, and when Ram Prasad comes to him and says that एक बुढ़े ने कोठी को occupy कर लिया है, and the first time he meets Kusum, he's like totally floored because he gets shouted at by her, like reprimanded by her rather, and surprisingly when he comes back to his garage, he stops swearing.
Yeah,
there's a scene where his one of his minions, he says, "अरे आज साला बोचू नहीं बोला," So how does that transition work out?
The feeling I think here again is about beginning to feel that grown up, not that emphatic thing of saying that I have to show I am the grown up or I am the boss. So the availability that he finds within his own mind of other emotions. So आजकल ऐसी औरतें बनाना बंद हो गया है. And the only औरतें he has access to, because he works in a garage, is Sumi and Nanima. There's no other access to any woman. So when he sees this woman who can take her own stand, because उसकी भी quirky बन जाती है. So it's not only about that woman, somebody who's that assertive, who's able to come back and say कि बुजुर्गों से ऐसे बात करते हैं क्या. This concept works out for him very well. Somebody who can speak their mind. Somebody who he can feel interested in and respect. So there's nothing which shows, जैसे गजानन के टाइम दिखाया था कि there is a sexual element attached to it. There's nothing which is shown that he is lusting for her in any way. He's just impressed so much that he's beginning to be involved in smaller ways. So his shift is about to come. तो जैसे हमने बिरजू और रत्ना का बात किया था, there was a conclusion to that shift. If it was a long enough relationship, if Kusum would have shown even a little bit of interest, then he would have felt that power in himself to stand up. And I think the movie works around, मैं तो आदमी हूँ क्या, मैं आदमी नहीं हूँ, मैं गरीब हूँ. Similarly, it would be for Kali saying मैं आदमी हूँ क्या, नहीं मैं तो बच्चा हूँ. Right? He would have been able to take that one step ahead to feeling grown up. And maybe once Kusum entered his life, that need to feel grown up and use galis would have automatically gone down. Automatically, because that woman would be in the spectrum, she would be around. So उसके सामने तो मैं वैसे भी गाली नहीं बोल सकता हूँ, भाई के सामने भी नहीं बोल सकता है वो गाली. So that change and transition would have happened. But because Bhavani Shankar shuts down that dream, we simply know that, that transition doesn't happen. So I think in a couple of other videos we've talked about it. The concept of the first Kaun Banega Crorepati. If there are 5 steps of change that have happened, right? 10,000 रुपए जीत गए हो तो इतना तो लेके घर जाओगे. If those 5 steps of positive change would have happened with him, then he would have come back a slightly different person to his own environment. But the shift happened only about 2.5 steps, and he got pulled back into his environment. So then the choice again goes back to going back to what his familiar behavior is. Enough of Kusum didn't happen in his life for the transition to happen, but enough of Ratna happened in Birju's life for that transition to have happened.
That's a brilliant insight, yeah. And surprisingly, Babua is not a part of the wedding as well.
Yes. So I think a lot of times when we see the conclusion of what the writer and the director are trying to bring to the table is the integration of inner concepts, right? So Bhavani Shankar stands for a particular thing, Babua stands for a particular thing, Ram Prasad stands. So the conclusion scene mein jo actors become part of the story, you're looking at all of those integrating beautifully well. So Sumi is there, Nani is there, Kusum is there, Ratna is there, Birju is there, his whole team is there. So that integration of all of that and the childlikeness or the absolute split of a very obedient boy and using Gochu kind of a thing. That split doesn't need to be part of the conclusion. I think a lot of times concluding scene में जो actors दिखाए जाते हैं, the characters, they become a part of what the writer wants to say. The learning has happened and the movement. So that childlikeness didn't need to be part of that conclusion, and that's why he wasn't part of that.
Right. He was not a central character which needed to come into the...
He didn't need integration. He was there.
Right.
He didn't need to become part of the whole system.
Right. Taking a step forward to the cinema today or all the web series today, the censor board has played a huge role in snipping away bad words. Of course, now it is again come into play. When my mother watches a lot of these series, she gets scandalized because, again, old school people, they get scandalized by looking at swear words, the amount of swear words that are used.
Yes.
In all of these. So, what is your take?
So, bringing in light again that interview that I heard by a historian on Doordarshan years back. I wish I had more reference on the name of the historian. Sun Temple also has a lot of graphic sexual actions which are part of it, and pornography also offers that. So how do you see the difference? And that's where this concept that I learned from, saying it is the difference in intention, execution and impact. So the intent in the Sun Temple is only education, and it is an environment that has been taught to us from the very childhood is very pious, and you're not to be getting excited there and conclude whatever you're learning from there at that particular place. So the intent is very clear. It's education and celebration of the body and the sexes. The execution is in very plain stone. There's no highlighting or there's nothing. It's in plain stone to not really do anything to create excitement. It's just about a plain text. So the impact would be, again, if anybody is wanting closer sculpture visibility, to learn from it, or maybe just bypass it and go to the temple directly and not really focus on anything. So that makes it very different. I think it's the same thing with use of swear words. If the intention, execution and impact is okay, it only enhances a character, right? Not having Babua say Sale Gochu would not be able to show the split of this small boy wanting to act all grown up. Somewhere I think the censor board is also correct that it's used more very obscenely, that need to kind of show, I don't know, to show freedom and liberty, saying we can use these words, so we are using it. It is not adding to the character or the situation in any way, right? So if at all the intent is more very commercial, let us add this. आजकल के जनरेशन को या यंग लोगों को ज़्यादा पसंद आएगा. I think you're taking away from the beauty of literature. But if you're using it for the character enhancement, like any other thing, like a sexual scene, I think it is something very relevant because it's part of that character. So to show frustration, you're using the gali, it's okay. But if you're doing it only to add commercial value, I don't know how it works out. So I think it goes down to a lot of gratitude to this learning I had on intention, execution and impact. So it depends more on the maker, whether it's well received or it is poorly received.
I'm pretty humbled by the insight she gets. Now I'm going to have double thoughts about whether I want to swear, I don't want to swear. What am I swearing for? A lot of questions created. I need a therapy session. And if you want to avoid therapy sessions, please get up, book 3 coffee stays later to get more awareness and become more integrated people. And we will see you next week with another host, with another movie, and with more and more learning. Bye for now.